started really focusing on studying sales funnels and copywriting and opt-in conversions and like all the things that I needed to do to run a business, to be a leader. And got really good at all of that stuff and built a pretty rockin' little business supporting women in finding freedom from emotional eating, which is the struggle that I had overcome myself. So just felt like a beautiful fit. And about 3 years into my business, I was so overwhelmed and so overworked and so burnt out that I ended up getting bronchitis for 3 months. And I was like miserable. And I had bronchitis for 3 months and my marriage was completely unraveling. And I missed my grandmother's funeral because I couldn't fly across the country because I had too much work to do. I had clients. I missed one of my best friend's weddings because I had too much work to do because I couldn't travel across the country. And one of the sort of turning point moments, the big aha moment for me was when my husband came. We were having this argument, really passionate argument, and I just felt myself go totally numb. And I was like, I don't have time for this. I have work to do. And I walked away and I got behind my computer and I could see him in the other room crying. I felt nothing. Not because I'm a horrible human being, but I was just numb. I had gone numb. And I realized in that moment that I was using work the same way that I had used food. I was using it as an escape. I was using it to soothe myself. I was using it to prove myself. And that this relationship, which, you know, was like one of the most important relationships in my life, I was totally destroying, playing my part in destroying this relationship. And it was around that time that I heard the Dalai Lama quote, "The world will be saved by the Western woman." Anybody else hear that?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I'm a Western woman. And I heard it and I was like, yeah, just total ego stroke. And I was like, shit, which ones? And I really, that quote, that saying kept like rattling around in my being. You know when like you can't get something out of your system? It just kept, it was like the song that was on repeat in my head. The world will be saved by the Western woman. And I got that what he meant is that as Western women, we have a lot of extrinsic freedoms, right? I mean, I can wear jeans and be here and talk to you, and I'm not married and that's okay, and there are a lot of freedoms that we have. I have the access to the internet, and I have my own website, and I have my own money, and even though I had all of that and was doing this work to save the world, I was on the verge of quitting. And not only was I on the verge of quitting because it was so hard to run my business and I was running myself into the ground, it was completely unsustainable, but I was also, the rest of my life was totally struggling. And so I started to go into this inquiry of which ones of us are actually going to make the impact in the world. Clearly it's not going to be the ones of us who, like me, are standing on our soapbox looking pretty and have the right things to say and have figured out how sales funnels and opt-in conversions and copywriting language. There was way more. There was way more to it, and that actually wasn't even leadership. So I didn't want anybody to know about the rest of my life. You think I wanted my clients who I was teaching them like dry skin brushing and mindful eating to know that I was up eating popcorn at 4 o'clock in the morning? So there was some deep incongruence there. And what I really came to understand is that it would be those of us who were actually being the change. That leadership wasn't about looking right or even wanting to make a difference. It was about being the difference that we wanted to see in the world. And so I've since thought about leadership as actually being really about, there are sort of 3 things that are coming to me in this moment. One is actually having a vision for the future, for what we want to create. So leadership would require us to be going somewhere, right? Where are we leading people? And I like to call this your North Star. And your North Star is a memory of the future. So you know, when you have a memory from the past, a vivid memory, it can call up all sorts of emotion in you. You can remember like what you were wearing and the way he smelled and the whole thing. There's like this beautiful, rich, it's not just an idea, but it's a memory, right? With all the richness that a memory brings. And so how can we have a vision for the future that has that quality of intimacy, where we can smell it, we can taste it, we can feel it, there's passion, such that it's not like, oh, that would be a nice idea, wouldn't it? But I know it. I know it, the way that I know a memory of, daddy hugging me when I was 4 and feeling relaxed. I know this future intimately. And when we have, it takes a lot of courage to hold that, because we have no proof. We have no proof that it's gonna happen. We have no proof that we can create it. We have no proof that it's the best thing in the world for everyone. And yet, what else are we gonna do? So the sort of fierce faith in holding this memory, having this memory, calling it into being every day and allowing that to be our North Star that draws us forward. And I like to think of us, so, one of the problems with corporations is that we want what we want at the cost of the impact on the planet or other people or what's best for all, right? And on the other end of the spectrum, we have like the starving artist or starving healer mentality, which is, I don't need anything, all for you, I'll be okay with these little crumbs over here. And both are actually unsustainable. So I like to think of this North Star in terms of a why for you and a why for the world. Have you guys ever seen Simon Sinek's talk, The Golden Circle? And if you haven't seen it, watch it when you get home. It's awesome. And I think it's called How Great Leaders Inspire Action. And he talks about people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And the beliefs, the passion that underpin why we're doing what we do, why we create what we create. And so that's what I'm talking about, is why. What is this future vision? The second thing is actually being the change in our lives, which is a really fucking messy process, because we're human and we're fallible and we don't always be love in the world. I don't always be love in the world. But I also recognize that there was a time in my life where I was just kind of going like, okay, well, I'm saying I stand for this thing, and I know that there's a little incongruence, but like, I'm just going to sweep it under the rug. Has anybody had that experience? Yeah. And, I know that I was just like really horrible to my husband, but like, now I'm going to go write some really sparkly copy for my sales page. And so the willingness to tell the truth about where we are being the change and where we're not, and so that we can actively live into being it. And then the other piece, and this is a big one, is seeing and inviting other people's leadership. And so one of the things that I noticed when I was starting my business especially is that there were a lot of gremlins. I still have gremlins sometimes. I was telling somebody yesterday about the gremlins that I had yesterday. But the gremlins were like, oh, she beat me to it. Oh, she made her website's more beautiful than I am. Oh, her messaging is better than mine is. Oh, she made that. It's like Danielle LaPorte made an app. She made an app. Oh,
Are you talking about an internal dialogue?
Yeah, totally.
Oh,
yeah.
I thought you meant outside. Okay, now I got it.
No, I mean, but sometimes sometimes I'm with a friend, like, I'm having this gremlin right now.
Yeah.
But there's a little, like, I want to be the best in there, right? I want to be the best. I want to be the leader. And I've been running women's mastermind groups of 15, 20 leaders, like women who are really visionary leaders in their lives and in the world. And it's humbled me to recognize I'm not the leader here. So I built something and I invited you and you all showed up. And yes, I'm responsible for holding this space, but I'm not the leader. We are leaders here. And that has been beautiful and also challenging, stepping into that level of I want everyone to shine, even if I'm not sitting in the spotlight with you. So that's my blurb on leadership. I think it would be awesome to actually explore some of these themes for ourselves and share them with one another. Are you guys game for that? You sound really enthusiastic. Awesome. So why don't we partner off? Can you grab a person? Grab a human. And actually, why don't we go in threes? Why don't we do threes? Trios, exactly. You guys trios?
We're over here, so maybe
Duos or trios?
Duos.
Two or three.
Let's say two.
Four. We won't go with four because that fourth can join a twosome, and also it'll be take too long. Does anybody not have anybody?
No. We're on here.
Oh,
You guys are,
Yeah, we'll do here.
we're D2.
okay.
We're good.
We all know our people. You want to say hi, introduce each other?
I'm Mary.
Margaret.
Where are you from?
Oh, nice.
Margaret? No.
Oh, the city of New York?
Okay, cats. All right, so we're going to talk about why, how, and what. So we're going to talk about your why. So the way that and listen, let's just be messy with this. You don't need to have an elevator pitch. It doesn't have to make sense with what you're doing right now in the world. Like, oh, I can see how this perfectly matches the career that I'm in right now. Let's just be messy with it. This is the dojo. And why is, like, what is the vision that you see for your life and also for the world that really inspires you? So for me, I really see myself having kids one day. I want to raise them in a way that they have a lot of community around them, that there's sort of multi-generational living happening. I want us to have a healthy planet. I want my kids to grow up being able to pull food out of the ground and have it not be radioactive and eat it, and to have their desires and their curiosities, to have the world be curious about who they are and have them be curious about the world. And that's part of my why for me. And I also want, like, beautiful, delicious partnership and time with my girlfriends, and to have such a close relationship with my parents that I snuggle up into their lap without any hesitation. And for the world, I really am passionate about the experience of women everywhere having sisterhood, having such a connection with other women that when we walk down the street and see one another, there isn't this like, oh, she looks full of herself, and why is she doing that, or any of that stuff. It's like, oh, my sister, and we all have this web of supportive, loving partnership. And that's the vision for the future. I see it, I taste it, I can feel it, this future. So be messy and share with your partner this vision that you see for the future for your life. And partner, be really curious, like pull it out of them. If you want to hear more, if you're getting like a little piece and you're like, okay, I can't quite see it yet, I want you to get to the point where you can taste it and see it and feel it for them. Like, oh yeah, okay, cool, I'm seeing what you're seeing. The way that one child might be like, I went on a rocket ship yesterday made of peanut butter, and the kid beside them is like, ooh. They see the rocket ship made of peanut butter. I want you to be that involved, that invested in experiencing their memory of the future with them. So that's the why. And for what, just talk about some of the things that you're passionate about, that you believe in. And how is bringing it into our lives now. So talking a little bit about how you can live this future into your present more in your way of being in the world. So how can we actually be the change more in our lives? Cool? And that includes inviting and inspiring other people into leadership. You might notice the ways that we go into jealousy or comparison or judgment, and creating a commitment around how we might shift that so that we are being the change more in the world. And I just got the 5-minute mark. So let's just do a little word vomit for a couple minutes, and then give your partners some space to do a little word vomit. Maybe you won't be able to dig as deeply as we want, and then that's where having one another's names will be really handy, and you can look up later this weekend and talk more about this. So, can we gather our energy back? Okay. So if somebody in your circle didn't get a chance to complete or share, will you give them a little yes, I promise to make space to hear you through completion? Yes? Can I have just one or two people share what you heard that inspired you, or what you witnessed in someone that inspired you? I'd love to share what leadership we're seeing. Yeah.
I have a new friend next to me named Jackie, and she wants to help heal the world in many ways, but one of them that really resonated with me is she wants to help create a retreat, an internal retreat, almost like at home, for children with learning disabilities, and then the retreat is for their parents at the home while the kids get their care, the parents get their care. And it's a beautiful, harmonious thing.
Yeah, go Jackie! Anyone else? Yeah, Alex?
I want to share about Sophie because she's freaking amazing. She's a nurse. She works nights in a senior long-term care center, and she brings in her guitar and sings and plays music for them. I'm so inspired by her healing.
Oh. Okay, one more. Okay, good. Not one more because I'm getting the Halie Swaha my head off. Thank you.
Thank you.